Hello, everyone. We are ready to start today's session, and we are going to talk about a lot of things in this session, but we will start with some really important points about preparing for PTE in 2021. So we'll be talking about what are the things you need to keep in mind while preparing for PTE in the beginning. Once we finish that, I will tell you a few strategies, a few tips and tricks which will help you to get better score in the test or get your desired score. Once we are done with that, in the last segment, we'll be talking about your questions, the questions you have submitted through our website or the questions that you'll be asking live. I'll try my best to answer as many questions as possible, but if we can't answer all those questions in today's session, we'll be doing that in the next session. So let's start today's session. And the first thing we are going to talk about, of course, is how to prepare for PT in 2021. So that's our first topic of discussion for today. And okay, let me get the slides ready now. Okay, so preparing for PT always requires good strategies, good skills, and good guidance. These are three things that you will need at all time. You have to make sure that you know what to do in the test and you know how to do that. And that will involve a series of things that you will be doing one by one. And all these strategies depend on your score target. So you have to be very specific about how much score you are trying to get. Because when you listen to tips and tricks you get on the internet or tips and tricks your friends share with you, they are sharing their perspective and their experience. But you also have to think about what their score target was and what their skills were. Because sometimes when you listen to other people and they tell you the things that you feel do not make much sense, it might just be because those are the things that work for them and perhaps will not work for you. Because your targets are different, because your learning styles are different, because your skills and strength are different. And that's why it's very important that you be specific in your strategy. You be specific about how much score you are looking for and how that score can be obtained. And of course, that will require you to first get familiar with the test, find out about different questions asked in the test, be clear about the score guidelines, how scores are given for different sections, and then after that, start focusing on different part of the test to get the score you are looking for. So starting with today's session, the most important thing that I want to tell you today are going to be about some strategies which will help you to get the score you're looking for. So let me share my screen with you. I hope you can see my screen now. Let me know if you can't see it. Okay. I can see that in chat, some of you are asking questions right now. I suggest that you keep these questions until the end, because first I want to share my experience about the exam, my knowledge about the exam with you. And then after that, at the end, I'll be answering your questions. So first, let's just quickly go through the important things about the exam, what you need to do and how to do those things. So as I told you, these are the topics of discussion for the first half of the class. I have already introduced the purpose of today's class to you. The next step would be strategy for preparation. So I'll be telling you what you must be doing to get the score you're looking for. Then after that, we'll talk about the questions that you can ignore, questions you should prepare well, and questions you should master. Because if you remember, in the beginning, I told you that different people have different score targets. And depending on those targets, you have to identify the questions which are important for your target score. And that's why you should know which questions you can ignore. And you should ignore those questions so that you have enough time to invest on more important questions. And at the end, we'll have the question and answer session. So The strategy for preparing PT well is PTE. That means postpone, train, and excel. There are certain questions that you should not practice right now. If you are just getting started, you should postpone your practice on those questions. There are certain questions which you should train yourself well, because these questions can be important in getting your score. But there are certain questions you should master, because these are the questions which you should know how to answer ins and outs, no matter your score target is 50 or 65 or 79. And that's why your strategy should be postpone, train, and excel. This is your plan. This is PTE plan. Learn which questions to postpone, learn which questions to train, and learn which questions to masters or excel in the test. Remember, if you don't start with a plan like this, if you don't have a clear idea of which questions you can just simply attempt and which questions you have to answer correctly in the test, then you are preparing to fail. Because as they say, people without a plan are people who are planning to fail. So make sure you are aware of these things. By the way, if you are preparing for PT and you are not sure how to start, where to start, we have an excellent website which you can use on your mobile, on your laptop, and this is free to get started with. You can practice questions on this website. You can watch videos, some tutorial videos which will make you familiar with the test, and then you can also do mock test. So mock test is a very good way of getting familiar with the exam. Rather than just theoretically understanding the exam, it's better you do the mock test and be familiar. So if you are preparing for PT and if you do not know where to start, then our website can help you with that. And of course, if you need more help, then you can get in touch with us and get some one-to-one guidance as well. So moving on, the 3 pillars of success are environment, tools, and guidance. If you are preparing for PT, first make sure that you are in an environment which is conducive to your preparation. If you are doing self-preparation, which many of you are doing, then remember, our homes, our houses are designed to relax, to feel more convenient. They are not designed to work hard or focus on things. That's why if you're preparing at home, either you shift your preparation base to a library or a place where you can do your preparation without much distraction. If you are doing at home, make sure that you have a dedicated study space so that you can just do your study in that place. Tools means get the materials you require for your preparation. In PT, questions repeat, so it's a good idea that you get hands on some questions from the past exams, and also practice the questions from the prediction file. We prepare prediction file every month. Prepare those questions because they are more likely to come in your test. And the last thing is get guidance for the preparation. Ask someone who has already prepared for the test. There is no point experimenting in the test and trying multiple times. Go to someone who knows about this test, someone you can trust, someone you can understand, and then just follow their advice, follow their guidance. It will help you to get better score. Your time is really important, and that's why you need good strategies, need good preparation plans. So remember, you need good environment, you need good tools, and you need good guidance. So you decide yourself right now. Just hold on for a second and think about these 3 things. Where do you prepare most of the times? And is that place suitable for your preparation, or for preparing for PT or for focused study? If you are preparing at a place where you have your TV set on one side, your laptop on the other side, your phone is ringing on the side, you can't prepare well because you are distracted all the time. You can't focus, and that will just waste your time. The second thing is, do you have access to the past questions? Without practicing the past questions, it will be stupid to go to the exam. It will be really, I know I'm using some harsh words here, but it will be really bad decision. You have to do the past questions because these questions repeat in the test. And you should ask someone. It can be your friends, it can be someone on YouTube, it can be someone who knows about the test. It does not have to be a paid class, but ask someone before you start doing everything yourself, because that way you'll make sure that you don't repeat the mistakes that some people have already made in the past. All right, so these were some general things. These were just some of the things that I thought would help you to understand the exam well. But more important things are these ones. You need to remember that there are some questions which together carry only 5.5% of the total score. So what happens is, out of 90, if you answer all of those questions without any mistake, you will only get around 5 points. only around 5 points. What that means is these are the questions you can ignore. These are the questions you should postpone. Especially if you are looking for more than 79, you have to focus your energy on questions which carry more points, not on these questions. Now, this does not mean in the exam you should ignore them. What it means is in the exam, you should answer these questions quickly as you can, so that you have extra time remaining for other important questions. So, which are these questions? Think, if you already know these things, do you know the questions which carry least score in the exam? Questions which are not important for your test, regardless of your score target 50, 65, 79. These questions are not important for anyone. Which are these questions? These questions are, in speaking, answer short questions. So if you go to find materials for answer short question, you'll find hundreds and hundreds of questions there. And if you master all of those questions in the test, still you'll see 2-3 new questions. So still there will be a few questions you'll not be able to answer. But even if you answer all the questions correctly, answer short question will carry only around 3 points in total for your speaking score and around 6 points for your listening score. But if we look at the overall score, that means in one section we are getting 90, in 4 sections we are getting 360 points total. Out of those 360 points, this question type is carrying only around 9 points, which means it's not an important question. Do not practice this question in the beginning, especially if you are looking for more than 79. Because it will consume a lot of time. It will take a lot of time to go through all the questions that you can find on the internet right now. And it's not a good strategy for your preparation. Reading section, you get 2 types of multiple choice questions in reading section. Both of these multiple choice questions are not important for your test, but there is something more important here. One of these multiple choice questions has negative marking. That is multiple choice question, multiple right answer. So what is the strategy? Multiple choice question, single right answer. Quickly read the question and the option, and within 1 minute, try to pick an answer based on the information you get from the passage. If you are not sure which one is the answer, just make a guess, but do not waste any time on multiple choice question, single right answer. Multiple choice question, multiple right answer. Is this question important? Multiple choice question, multiple right answer is not important. It's the most time consuming question in reading if we compare it according to the score we get from the question. Multiple choice question, multiple right answer. They ask you to pick more than one option, but my suggestion is just pick one option. Make just one guess. Don't try to read the passage. Just read the option and the question. Look at the passage and scheme. Whatever you can do within 1 minute, make a guess and move on. So these 2 questions, you should not waste too much time on the exam. You should not waste too much time during the preparation as well, because both of these questions are not important. Then after that, we have listening section. Remember, listening has the largest number of less important questions. In listening, we get 8 different questions. Out of them, 4 questions are not important at all. These question types are multiple choice question, single right answer, and multiple choice question, multiple right answer, and select missing words and highlight correct summary. All these 4 questions are not important for your test, so do not spend any time on these questions. They will not help you in getting your score. Especially if you are looking for 50 plus or 65 plus, you should completely ignore these questions. If you are looking for 79 plus, learn to answer these questions. In the exam, try to answer these questions as quickly as you can. So the strategy is very simple. 50 and 65 plus, ignore them. Ignore these questions. 79 plus, learn how to answer the question, but do not spend too much time. So these are the questions that you should not be practicing much. After this, there are important questions. Means these are the questions you should prepare well, especially if you are looking for 65 plus and 79 plus. What about people who are looking for 50 plus? Make yourself familiar with these questions. Make yourself familiar with these questions, but do not worry too much. How much score these questions carry? These questions carry around 42% of the total score. That means out of 360 points that we get in total in 4 sections, we get around 42% points from these questions. But the problem is, these questions, if you look at them, you can see describe image, retell lecture, reader paragraphs, fill in the blanks, summarize spoken text, fill in the blanks. Again, in listening, highlight incorrect words, summarize written text, essay writing. So you can see that we have 9 questions which carry 42% points. So these questions are important if you're looking for 65 plus and 79 plus, but not as important if you're just looking for 50 plus. 50 plus, just make yourself familiar with this question. 65 plus, make sure you can at least answer more than 60% of the questions correctly. And if you are looking for 79 plus, make sure you can answer at least 80% of the questions correctly. Which means if you have, let's say, 10 questions, you should be able to get at least 8 questions right. If you have 10 questions for 65, you should be able to get at least 6 questions right. So that should be your rough target. And these are the questions you should be practicing more than the questions we discussed earlier. But the most important questions for everyone, regardless of your score target, 50 plus, 65 plus, 79 plus, doesn't matter. These are the questions you should master. Which are these questions? Let me show you. The questions which are important to everyone, questions which carry more than 50% of the total score in the exam, although there are only 4 of them, are, in speaking, we have 2 question types, read aloud and repeat sentence. In reading, there is 1 question type, fill in the blanks, reading and writing, which we also call drop down, and listening, write from dictation. These 4 questions you should master. But the question is, how can we get the maximum score from these 4 question types? Some of you had shared your confusion about PT exam with me, and I'm going to answer all of those questions after we finish this general discussion. And most of you had almost the same question, like how can I do better in repeat sentence? How can I get more score in read aloud? How I can answer fill in the blanks questions correctly, and so on. So I think almost all of you know that these 4 questions are the most important question types. But what you also need to know is, along with these 4 questions, there are other 9 questions I showed you, which are also important for 65 and 79, but not for 50. So let me recapitulate everything I have shared with you. If you are looking for just 50 plus, then you should focus on the questions I'm showing you right now. These are the only questions you should be worried about. The rest of the other questions, just learn how to answer them, but don't worry too much about answering all of them. 65 plus, you have 14 questions to prepare. Those 14 questions are the 4 questions I'm showing, not 14, sorry, 13 questions to prepare. Those 13 questions are 4 question types I'm showing right now and 9 question types I showed you earlier. Later on, when this session will be over, you can perhaps watch this video one more time to take a note of those questions as well. And if you are looking for 79 plus, your strategy should be mastering all the questions you're seeing right now. You should learn how to answer all of these questions. Then you should be really good in questions like fill in the blanks or other questions I showed you. And don't worry about the 4 questions in the beginning, 5 questions I showed you in the beginning. Okay, so if I have to summarize, what I'm saying is read aloud, repeat sentence, fill in the blanks reading and write from dictation. You should learn how to answer these questions. So let me quickly tell you what strategies we can use to answer these questions. Read aloud. In read aloud, you have to first learn which are the most commonly used but difficult to pronounce words, because most often these words will be your problem. So you can get the list of most commonly mispronounced words from our website, and you should practice those words a lot. After you finish practicing those words, go through most commonly asked read aloud questions. Again, you can download that from our website, or you can just practice the questions on the prediction file. Learn how to read all the passages given there for read aloud. That's the only strategy. Do not worry about other things, like there are so many other things like intonation, connected speech, rhythm, and this and that. Yeah, they sound fancy but are not important for the exam. Trust me, because I know I have taught this test for last 6 years, almost 6 years now, and I've seen that many people who had no idea what connected speech was, what rhythm was, what pronunciation was, what intonation was, have also scored 90 out of 90. So the most important thing is go through all the questions they're asking right now. Make sure you can pronounce all the difficult words in that question list. If you're not sure, check, ask, and then practice a little bit. That's it. Don't overdo this. That's all. Okay. And of course, if you have other confusions, we can discuss those things as well. So if you have any confusion about read aloud, please write in the comment, write in the chat right now, so that I can answer those things first before I move on to repeat sentence. Okay, Milan is asking most important topics. As I told you, most important topics are the ones I just told you earlier. These are read aloud, repeat sentence, and after that, reading and writing, fill in the blanks, and dictation. These are the most important questions. And Chirag is asking, reading fill in the blanks tips and tricks, please. Okay, let's talk about reading fill in the blanks. In reading, we have two different types of fill in the blanks question. One type we call fill in the blanks reading and writing, which comes with drop down. You have 4 options and you have to pick one. Another one is drag and drop, which is simply reading fill in the blanks questions, where you just drag the options in the gap. So let me tell you about the one which is more important, that is reading and writing fill in the blanks, which has drop down options. In this question type, you will be tested. You will be tested for your knowledge of vocabulary and your knowledge of contextual use of words. That means, in addition to knowing the meaning of the words, do you also know which word is more appropriate in the given context? That's something additional they test. How should you prepare or practice for this question? First, when you are preparing for reading and writing fill in the blanks, first thing, as I said, is the right kind of materials. What are the right kind of materials for reading and writing fill in the blanks? You should first go through the list of modified academic words. If you have not heard about this list, if you go to our website right now, you will be able to download it from there. Modified academic word list. You should download this list and make sure that you know meaning of all the words given in the list. Second, you should go through the list of collocation, which again you can get from our website. And if you can't, just let us know so that we can provide you with the list. That's the second list. So first is modified academic word list. Second is collocation list. Once you have gone through these two lists, you have to remember 5 things while answering the question. Every time you're answering the question, you have to think about whether you are looking for positive types of words for the gap or the negative types of words, whether you are looking for formal words or informal words, whether you are looking for a word which is related to the topic or a general word, whether you are looking for a word which is a part of a collocation or just a random word, and lastly, whether the word you are looking for is specific to a preposition used there or not. Now, I know I have told you all these 5 things very quickly, and you might be feeling, how can I remember all these 5 things if you just tell me once? Actually, I have made a video about this on YouTube. So if you go to the channel later on, you'll be able to find this video where I have discussed all these points one by one with examples. Please watch that video. With that video and with those examples, you'll understand how to use your knowledge to solve the problem. So remember, fill in the blanks reading and writing questions require knowledge of vocabulary, for which you have to memorize the words in modified academic word list, which I have prepared for all of you. Second, you should be familiar with collocations. Collocations means the most natural combination of words. And third, you must watch the video tutorial which is on YouTube. If you do these 3 things, you will be prepared to appear in the test and solve the questions. After you have done these 3 things, go through the questions in the prediction list. Answer all of those questions using these tricks and you'll be all right. All right. So let me take other questions. So by the way, after this general introduction, now I'm only answering your questions. So feel free to write all questions you have. I'll answer all of them one by one. And it doesn't matter which section you are interested in. You can ask me questions about any section, any kind of problems you have. Just write in the chat and I'll answer all of them one by one. Okay, I have another question here. Pronunciation matters or not. Now, regarding this, my experience says that you don't have to have perfect pronunciation, because I've seen people with really bad pronunciation getting 90 out of 90, and I've also seen people who score just, let's say, 70 or 60 in pronunciation scoring 90 out of 90. So do you have to have good pronunciation? Yes. Do you need to have perfect pronunciation? No. You must learn the most commonly used words in read aloud and repeat sentence, and learn how to pronounce them. If you learn these words, then even if you can't pronounce any other words in English, you will be getting perfect score, and you'll be getting your desired score in the test. So learn the words which are important for your test. You have to be really specific when you are preparing for this. And Harshid is asking me, please provide link for the common words. Okay, let me show you where that link is. So I'll show you where that link is on our website. Let me share my window with you. So if you go to our website and click on free materials here and click on free books, and if you scroll down, you can find the words that I'm talking about. This one, for example, words you must learn to score 90 in pronunciation. You can download here. 500 words per PT. These are the words from Modified Academic Word List. And you can find PT study plan here. So all of these are free materials, and you can get all of them from our website. Okay, let me show one more time. So yeah, so here, this is PT study plan. This is 500 words for PT. This is words you must learn to score 90 in pronunciation. These are the fill in the blanks reading and writing questions they ask in the exam all the time. So these are the things that you must learn first, and then after that you can do the things that I just told you earlier. Okay, I hope now you'll be able to get that, Harshit. And Money has a question here. I need around 7.5 overall score. What should I? If you're looking for 7.5, the first thing is you practice those 4 question types I told you about. Repeat sentence, read aloud, fill in the blanks reading and writing, and write from dictation. Write from dictation, all the practice questions that you are likely to get in the test, you can get from our website from the link I just showed you earlier. Fill in the blanks reading and writing, again, you can get all those questions there, but in addition to those questions, also learn those 500 words. And for read aloud, learn to pronounce the words in that list that I showed you. And if you do this much, then you'll be all right. After finishing all of this, go to our website and do mock test. So on our website, you can do mock test for free. Although if you want to get tutors feedback as well on your performance, then you have to select a paid plan. But if you just want to get a feeling of the exam and you just want to see how the exam is run and how they ask you questions, you can just sign up to our free plan and just look at the questions. You can practice around 1,000 questions for completely free, and you can also do the mock test from there. Now, I have another question here from Amar Singh, and he's asking, my last score in speaking was 81. How to get 90 in speaking? So if you want to get 90 in speaking, focus more on fluency than on pronunciation. Because what I have seen in the exam is people who get 90 out of 90 in fluency are more likely to get 90 in speaking as well. I've seen people who have got only 70 or 60 in pronunciation also scoring 90. So my perception is maybe they are counting more on fluency than on pronunciation. But there can be other factors as well. I may need to look at your score if you have attempted the test before, and if not, I may need to listen to how you do your speaking. Then you'll be able to get the score. Another important thing is 2 question types in speaking: describe image and retell lecture. Just use template. Don't try to overdo anything there. You don't really have to understand the question and then answer the question properly. Although theoretically, that's what we are supposed to do, right? Look at the question, understand the question, and answer the question. But trust me, this test is not about that. Unless you know some strategies and tricks, you are not going to get the score you want. So If you want to get good score in those two question types, just use template. They will help you to get higher score, and focus more on repeat sentence and read aloud for 19 in speaking. I have a question from Roshan here. Roshan is asking how to improve in listening section. Listening section has 8 different question types. Listening section has 8 different question types, and listening section is also influenced by your performance in speaking section. So let's look at both the sections one by one to understand how we can get more score in listening. In speaking, we have questions like repeat sentence, retell lecture, and answer short questions, which contribute towards listening. Out of these 3 questions, repeat sentence is more important for your listening section. So if you want to increase your score in listening, focus more on repeat sentence. What about retell lecture and answer short questions? Retell lecture, learn a template. Once you learn a template, learn how to use keywords from the recording in the template. And then in answer short questions, don't worry too much if you don't know the answer. You have 2 tricks there that you can use. First, you can simply repeat the question if you don't know the answer. Second, if you don't know the answer, then you can just say a part of the question and then move to the next question without answering the question. It will help you in getting your score in listening. What about the listening section proper? In listening section proper, you have 8 different question types. Out of those 8 different question types in your exam, just guess and answer the questions in multiple choice questions of both types, select missing word, and highlight correct summary. But learn how to answer questions properly in questions like summarize the spoken text, fill in the blanks, highlight incorrect words, and write from dictation. That will help you to get your desired score in listening. So for listening, 5 questions types are very important. They are summarize the spoken text, fill in the blanks, highlight incorrect words, write from dictation, and 1 question type from speaking, that is repeat sentence. 2 question types are important. They are retell lecture, answer short question to some extent. The remaining 4 questions are not important. They are multiple choice questions, single right answer and multiple right answer, select missing words, and highlight correct summary. These questions are not important at all. Learn to ignore them in the exam. Ignore in the sense, just guess an answer. Okay? Then we have another question. Modified academic word list is the same list I showed you earlier. It's the list of 500 words I showed you earlier. The list of 500 words is the list of words from academic word list, original academic word list, as well as the words I got from PTE questions. I combined these 2 words and prepared this list. So if you download this list, that's what I'm talking about. There is another question from Milan. I'm from Nepal, so how can I contact with you? It's very simple to contact me. You can go to our website. There is a chat widget there. If you have any questions pertinent to PT preparation, you can write there. Otherwise, every week I do these sessions. You can ask me questions in these sessions as well. If you write anything in chat, I'll be able to see those questions and I'll try to include their answers in our discussion as well. I have another question from Chirag here. So it's good to see that so many of you are asking me questions. I feel really motivated to do these sessions when all of you get interested as well and ask me questions. So Chirag has a question. Summarize written text contribute towards reading section. Summarize written text does contribute towards reading section, but how can you get more points? Very simple. If you want to get more points for summarize written text, make sure that you get around 3 sentences from the passage you get in the exam, around 3 sentences from the passage as it is, and learn some template. Find a template from somewhere and memorize it. In the exam, first write that template. Second, get those 3 sentences from the passage and use them in the template. Third, look at the word count. Make sure it has not exceeded 75 words and you have not written more than 1 sentence. Fourth, check for your grammatical and spelling errors. That's it. You don't need to rewrite. You don't need to write in your own words. You don't need to understand and write in your own way. You don't have to do any of that. Trust me, even if you copy everything from the passage as it is, you will still get full score for reading as well as writing. because the scoring criteria is based on your content, your length, your grammar, and your vocabulary. If you are copying everything from the passage, your content will be good because you are getting the idea from the passage. Length, make sure it's not longer than one sentence and it does not have more than 75 words. And grammar and vocabulary, you are copying from the passage. There is no chance of making any grammar and a vocabulary error there if you're just copying everything from the passage. It's very simple strategy. Usually in this section, people lose points only when their writing skill is not good, but they try to write anyway, because then you have more chances of making errors and not using adequate ideas in your answer. So just do what I've just said. Get a template, fill the template with 3 sentences from the passage, count the words, make sure there are no errors. That's it. Now, another question from Kesari. What if we choose all 4 options in multiple choice, multiple answer section? You'll get 0. If you choose all options, you'll get 0. Why? Because some options will be right, some options will be wrong, so they'll have to get the total. The number of wrong options will always be more than number of right options, because of which your total points will be 0. So let's imagine this. We have 5 options, let's say, and let's say 2 options are correct, 3 options are incorrect. If I select all of them, then what will happen? -3 plus 2, total will be -1, because the score cannot be in minus, it will be reset to 0. Your score cannot be below 0. That's why if you get anything in minus during the calculation, that will be reset to 0 and you'll not get anything. So that will not be a good strategy. The better strategy is to select one option only, so that you save time, and the chances of, if you're just guessing, chances of making both the guesses correct is very low. So it's better you just choose one option. Then we have another question. We need to go for class, or we can do self-prepare to get 7.5. Okay, this is, I think it depends on what kind of what is your style of learning and how good you already are in the language. Not everyone needs to go to a class to learn things if you already know things. For example, on my YouTube videos during these discussions, I share a lot of tips and tricks with you. So in fact, I tell you most of the things that I would tell you in the classroom as well. So what is the point of coming to my class, for example? The only reason you should come to my class is when you want to have one-to-one session with me. You want me to look at your work, your problems, and give you specific suggestions. Because in these sessions, for example, I can't give you a specific answer because I don't know your specific problem, your specific strength. I can't spend time with you. I can't make you sit in a lab and look at your 3 hours of performance or 8 hours of performance, because that's what our students do in our centers. So in our center, for example, we tell the students to do things, but after that, what we do is we take them to the lab, and then we sit with them there in the lab. We'll look at how they're answering the question, and then we tell them that's not the right way or that's the right way, they should continue. So if you need that kind of help, you can go to any kind of preparation center where this kind of help is available. But personally, what I feel is there is no need to go to any center just to listen to these tips and tricks, because you can find these tips and tricks on internet, on YouTube, on many places for completely free. So if you're going to a class just to listen to the teacher, then you're just wasting your time and money. But if your teacher is also sitting with you, looking at your work, providing you with feedback, telling you what your specific strengths and weaknesses are, then that class is worth. And then you should go to the class, any paid classes. Otherwise, there is no need to waste your money. Okay, Milan has a question. How to make proper fluency to get good score? Okay. If you make any mistake in speaking, ignore it. Even native speakers make a lot of mistakes while speaking, but they don't start correcting themselves. We are non-native speakers, and most of us learn English by learning grammar. So we are very conscious about our grammatical errors. The moment we make one simple mistake, one minor mistake, we start correcting that. You should leave that habit. If you are kind of person who tends to correct himself for minor mistakes, your fluency will be affected. And if we talk about PT, then even when you're answering questions like read aloud, let's say you mispronounced one word, don't start correcting it. If it's just a minor mistake, or let's say if it's just 1 or 2 mistakes in one question set, you don't need to correct that. Just ignore it. Keep moving, keep moving. Repeat sentence. You can't remember one word? That's all right. Ignore that word. Just finish the sentence. Describe image. In one particular point, you feel like you don't know what to say next. Just start another sentence without thinking how to complete that sentence. So, in a way, what I'm saying is everybody makes mistakes, but people who score 90 in exam are not the people who are perfect. These are the people who have learned to ignore their mistakes and learn to continue despite their mistakes. So if you want to get good score in fluency, that's what you should learn. That's what you should focus on. Prem has a question here. In mini mock test, I got 33 in speaking. What is overall score in terms of 90? Okay, mock mini test is available on our website. And those of you who do not know about mock mini test, it's a test of a section, only speaking, only writing, only reading, only listening. Now, it's difficult to score you for speaking or writing or reading just by looking at that section, because this is an integrated test where scores are shared across sections. For example, when you do read aloud, not only you are being scored for your speaking skill, you are also being scored for your reading skill. So if let's say that you have done only reading section, then the score you are getting is from that reading section only. You are not getting any score for reading that you get from speaking. You are not getting any score for reading you get from writing or from listening. So if in speaking you have scored 33 in mock mini test, that means your speaking is almost perfect, because the maximum score that you get there is around 40. So if you have got around 33, it's good. But again, I'll have to look at your specific test to find out what is going on there. But based on what you have shared with me, I think you have done well there. So try to look at the overall score, not on just the section score there. Sorry, try to look at the section score, not the overall score, because overall score is the score that you get from the combination of speaking, writing, reading, and listening. And because you have only done speaking, so you have only got the score that you would get from speaking. So you have not got the score from reading, listening, or writing. That's why you may have got only 33. But why we encourage our students to do mock mini test? Because it's short test. You can just do speaking, maybe in half an hour, and then we can tell you your speaking section is fine, it's perfect. Now you can move on to next section. Or let's say that you did reading, and then we can look at your reading score from mock mini, and we can tell you, okay, your reading score looks fine. I think you are not making any mistake in reading section. Maybe you are doing mistake in read aloud in speaking section. So it helps the students. It also helps teachers to find out whether students are losing a score in reading because of their reading questions or because of their, let's say, speaking question or writing question or listening question. So mock mini tests are really useful. Any of you who is enrolled in the paid class, do this test, as many of them as you can. Okay, then we have another question here. Is there any tips for answer short question to score max in speaking and listening? Now, I think you may have missed this point that I shared with earlier. In answer short question, if you do not know what the answer is, just repeat the question you heard, as much of the question as you can remember. And that's all you can do there, by the way. There is nothing else you can do. So just repeat the question you heard, because sometimes you might be answering the question by doing that, and you may be getting a score for your listening as well, because you heard the question correctly, you understood the question correctly. Then we have another question here. The question is, could you please suggest how many words are required in summarized written text to score maximum marks? Summarized written text has minimum word limit of 5 and maximum word limit of 75. Even if you write 75 words, as long as you write correct answer without making any mistakes, you'll get the point. So there is not a threshold for word numbers in summarized written text. It's not that if you write 50, you get full marks, but if you write 60, you don't get marks. It's not like that. Let's say you are a very good writer and you wrote only 50 words, but you answered accurately, you covered all the important points, you'll get the score you are looking for. But let's say you wrote 75 words making many mistakes, you'll not get the score, the maximum score. So it's more about whether you did the right thing or not. And if you can remember, as I told you earlier, if you want to get more score in summarized written text, just copy 3 sentences from the passage and use them as it is. Another question from Muhammad, and that is, I got 48 in speaking, I need 65 my pronunciation, 34 fluency, 52, how can I improve? Okay, Muhammad, first, as I said earlier, you have to go through the words which are most commonly asked in your exam. The words which you are most commonly asked to pronounce in your exam. Make sure that you know how to pronounce those words. Second, people from different language backgrounds tend to have different kind of problems with sounds. Some people cannot pronounce certain kind of sounds. Find out if you have such kind of problems or not, and for that you may need to speak with your teacher or someone who can understand these things. Speak in front of them, or maybe do a test and ask them to review the test for you, and then learn from those mentors. Ask them if you made any specific errors in pronunciation, because if you are getting 34 in pronunciation, that means you must have been making some mistakes in pronunciation. Fluency 52 is not bad, but still I think you can improve there as well. So for fluency, if you make mistakes, just ignore your mistakes and keep speaking. Even if sometimes you feel like what you were saying was not making any sense, just keep speaking, because that's the formula for getting high score in fluency. This fluency is not being measured by a human being. This is being measured by a computer, which actually looks at the gap between your words to calculate your average pausing time. So because nobody speaks continuously, by the way. We all speak with certain pauses between our words. After a few words, we take a pause and then we speak and so on. So this machine calculates average duration of pause, and based on that tries to guess whether you were pausing naturally or you were just hesitating or you were not able to speak fluently. Which means even if, let's say that I'm not saying something that makes sense, as long as I'm pausing in a normal manner, I'll get the points. So this is one thing you need to remember. It's a machine assessment, which means unlike humans, the machine only looks at how long you waited rather than whether you made sense or not. Okay, so I hope that's making sense there. Prem has another question here. In PTE essay writing, to get 79 plus, what should be the strategy? In essay writing, just learn the template. Just memorize a template. Essay writing, just memorize a template. We have got a universal template. So universal template means we have got one essay answer, pre-written answer, where we just replace 4 words with the topic words, and then students just write that and get their desired score. And now for a long time, we asked the students to write proper essay by using a template which they could modify with their ideas and so on. And then I experimented with another idea. What I did in the exam was I just wrote one generic answer where I replaced a few words with the topic words to see how much score I could get, and still I scored 90 in my overall score, which means I must have scored full score in essay writing as well. And so now on, and then from that time onwards, we asked all our students to use the same template. Just use the template and then fill those gaps with those words. But if you don't have access to that template, then in that case, you can find similar kind of templates on the internet. These days, it's quite easy to get that. And then don't over stress, don't overdo essay writing. It's not that important anyway. It carries around 11 to 12 points out of 90 points you get in writing. And if you just do what I said, it will be enough for your essay writing. All right, in write-on dictation, if we write extra words like books, can we get full marks in listening? Now, again, I have experimented with this as well, and I have had some mixed experience here. Mixed experience in the sense, in many of my exams, especially mock test, not in the actual exam, in the mock test, Pearson's official mock test, I tried this strategy several times, and each time I was able to get full score, which means this strategy works, especially if you are not confident about the word ending, like whether you heard book or books. In that case, you can do this. Or let's say you are not sure whether you heard book or hook, and you are not able to guess it according to the context, looking at the context as well, then try both of them. Because according to the scoring criteria, you get points based on the number of words in your answer that matched with the number of words in the actual answer, which means it doesn't matter if your answer has more words or fewer words, because they are just going to count how many words matched and whether they were in the correct order or not. So that means you can just you can write extra words as well, and there will not be any penalty. At least until now, I haven't seen any penalty there. Bijay has written score here. I'm not sure what is the question, so maybe I'll answer this question later on. And this is, I think, appreciation from one of you, from Krishna, and thank you for that. And can you please explain what are the area for the test taker to improve for this score? Listening 64, writing 59, speaking 67, reading 59, writing 62. Okay, so looking at this score, it looks like this person is losing a score in listening, reading, and writing. Now, what could be the reason for that? One is write from dictation. So yes, write from dictation and highlight incorrect words. This person is losing write from dictation, highlight incorrect words, and then after that, in okay, fill in the blanks, write from dictation, and highlight incorrect words. For this score, these are the 3 question types you should be focusing on. Okay, doesn't mean that in the next exams the same thing is going to happen. By the way, you have to focus on all the questions and be confident in all the question types. But looking at this score, it looks like these are the 3 question types you should be focusing on to get your desired score. Hanimi has a question here. Throughout speaking, do we need to maintain same pace or can we change pace each speaking question? It's better to maintain the same pace because as I told you, as far as I understand, this software, this algorithm calculates your average duration of pause to find out when you stop speaking, whether it's your natural pause or you actually are thinking because you can't decide what to say next, which means you don't have fluency. Right? In case of humans, we don't need to do any calculation. We look at the person's face and we know whether the person is hesitating or the person is thinking. We can easily say, even if we don't have any formula, any algorithm, we can easily say if a person has good fluency or not. When you listen to me, you can say whether I'm fluent or not. When I listen to you, I can say whether you are fluent or not. But for machines, they need to calculate. So what they do is they find out how many seconds you pause for, how many microseconds you pause for between your ideas, between your sentences. And based on that, they calculate the average duration of your natural pauses. And if they find that in some of the places you are pausing for longer than that, they assume that you are losing fluency there. And that's why it's better idea to be consistent in your pacing throughout your speaking test, except in repeat sentence. In repeat sentence, copy the pacing of the speaker, the actual speaker. Okay, you don't need to have your own pacing strategy there. Just if the speaker speaks slowly, pausing 2 times between within the sentence, do the same thing. If a speaker speaks fluently in one breath without pausing anywhere in the sentence, do the same thing. Just copy the speaker in repeat sentence. In other 4 question types, just be consistent with your pacing. Okay, Chirag has a question. My written discourse was 90, but my writing score was low. Can you elaborate a little bit? Written discourse is assessed only in AC writing section. So if you got 90 in written discourse, that means your AC writing was good. Maybe your template was good, or if you wrote your answer yourself, your answer was good. But essay itself carries only 11 points. So even if you got perfect score in essay writing, you only got 11 points. You still have to get 79 points from the remaining questions. So if you scored low in writing, it perhaps was because of some other questions. Most likely reading and writing fill in the blanks or write from dictation, because these 2 questions together carry around 60 points for writing. So if you are not good in these 2 questions, even if you are an expert in essay writing, you will not get more than 65 in writing. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Then we have another question here from Harshid. I can only speak keywords and give conclusion in detailed lecture, then I can get full marks. I think this is a question. So Harshid, as much as possible, try to form sentences. And if you think that's difficult for you, use a template. Keywords will help you to get a score in content part. And fluency and pronunciation will be measured based on how well you said those words in a sentence in a meaningful manner. So it's better that you find a template. The template can be very simple. It does not have to have any complicated words because there is no separate score for your vocabulary. The score is only for your content, your fluency, and your pronunciation. So use keywords and try to prepare your answer in this way. First, say what the lecture is about. The given lecture was about this thing. That's the introduction part. In the middle part, just mention what were the keywords the speaker mentioned. The speaker talked about this, and Just in 2-3 sentences, do that. And then conclusion. Overall, the lecture provided important information about whatever was the information there. Okay, it can be very simple, but be consistent. Just do this all the time. All the time you're answering repeat sentence question, and you'll be all right. Chirag has another question. In write from dictation, can I put 2 words if I'm unsure about whether it's friend or friends? I've already answered this question, and you can do this. So I'll move on to the next question. In mock mini test, I got 63% in speaking, 50% in reading, 73% in writing, and 64% in listening. And what is the question then? Is it enough to get 50 plus? Yes, looking at your score, it looks like you will get 50 plus, but the exam can be a little different than doing mock mini test at home or in the lab, because at home you are more relaxed, and in the lab you are again in a familiar environment. But exam can be stressful for anyone, whether it's you or me. So it's always be safe there. It's always better to be safe than to be sorry. So what that means is, it's if your score target is 50, prepare for 65 plus. If your score target is 65 plus, prepare for 79 plus. And if you want to get 79 plus, prepare for 90, so that you are always on the higher side. And even if you lose a few points in the exam because of the stress and the inconvenience of the exam, you'll still be able to get your desired score. So that's something to keep in mind. Then I have another question here from Sandhya, and Sandhya is asking, can we use universal template in any types of questions? I think this question is about essay writing, and yes, you can use universal template in any kind of questions. But if your plan is to use universal template, make sure that you are good in other question types. Okay, because remember, essay only carries around 11 to 12 points, and just doing well in essay is not enough to get your desired score in writing. It's good that you learn how to do essay writing, but you have to be expert in reading and writing fill in the blanks questions and write from dictation question if you want to get more than 65 plus or 79 plus. And then again, I have another question here. Sometimes I stammer, which affects my fluency. How can I improve myself in this case? I don't know if it is stammering is your you only stammer in the exam, or it's a problem that you have had for a long time. If it's a problem that you have had for a long time, then perhaps I'm not the right person to suggest what to do, because then you will need advice of an expert, speaking expert, a speech pathologist. But if it's only in the exam and only in PTE test, then in that case, learning the templates can really help people who stammer in the test, because template takes away the pressure of forming the sentence in the exam, which most often makes people stammer or stutter in the exam. But if it's a stutter that you have all the time, in that case, you need to take help from other experts, because that's a completely different kind of problem. That's not a language problem. Then I have another question here. For 65, 66, what parts should we try the best to keep max marks? Which parts we can get rid of? As I said in the beginning of this session as well, you should ignore multiple choice questions in reading as well as in listening. You should ignore select missing words in listening. You should ignore highlight correct summary in listening. You should focus on read aloud, repeat sentence, reading and writing fill in the blanks, and write from dictation. And the other remaining questions, just be familiar with them and learn to answer them with at least 60% accuracy for your test if your target score is 65 plus. But if you again want to listen to this advice, once this session is over, please rewind to the initial part of this session where I have explained these things in more detail. Sandhya has a question. Sir, to score 90 in each band, which section I need to focus more? My previous score was listening 68, reading 73, speaking 61, writing 73. Okay, for now, looking at your score, I suggest that you start with your speaking. Aim getting 90 in speaking first. For that, focus more on your fluency, followed by pronunciation, and focus on the content the least. Content is not that important for your speaking score, as long as you have the keywords from the lecture or keywords from the image, you will be all right. In repeat sentence also, if you can get more than 50% of the content right, you will get almost full points. In reading, content is already there, so you don't need to worry about content anyway. So for your situation, if you want to get more than 71.9, or let's say you want to get 90, then I suggest that you focus on speaking first. If you increase your score in speaking, let's say that your score in speaking becomes 90, you'll easily cross more than 79 in listening and reading as well. For writing, you may need to change your strategy in listening. I think you are losing score in writing because of your score in listening. And Baswa has a question here. My exam was on 29 January 2021, but in the speaking part, 52 fluency and pronunciation 40. But I was no pause and not feel hesitate, but my score 47. Let me read the question one more time. Let me first understand the question. The question here is speaking part 52, fluency, pronunciation 40. Did not hesitate, but the score was 47. Now, see, fluency and pronunciation are not the only things. You need to make sure that the content is also at least relevant. Now, I'm not saying that you have to be an expert in the content part as well, but at least it has to be relevant. Let's say that I'm doing describe image and I start talking about things which are not even on the image, which are not related to the image in any way, then I will not get score in content. And that can reduce my speaking score, even if I'm speaking fluently and my pronunciation is okay. So maybe you need to work on your content. Second, if you feel like you are not happy with the score, then it's important that you sit down with a tutor so that they can actually tell you whether it's your perception or you actually are making the mistakes in the exam. Because sometimes what happens is I might feel like I'm not doing any mistakes, I'm all right, I'm fine, but the other person might be able to tell me whether I'm actually doing right or not in the test. So if you think that you are doing fine but your score is not okay, not acceptable, then it's important, it's high time that you sat down with the teacher and then get some advice from the teacher. Nikul, listening 51, speaking 53, writing 56, reading 61. Pro 46, that means pronunciation, I think. Grammar 78, written discourse 89, verbal fluency 61, vocabulary 47. Which module could I focus more? If your score target is 65, in that case, looking at this score, you need to focus on your speaking and listening. By the way, if you improve your score in speaking, then your score in listening will also go up, and it will also help you to increase your score in reading. And your score in fluency, what is this? I think this is fluency. So fluency score is 61. You can increase this score to more than 80 to get more than 65. Now I can take only a few questions. So I'll go through a few selected questions here so that before I wrap up, I can tell you something important. So here I have one specific question. If the text shows 2012, should I say 2012 or year 2012? Same question. If the text shows $220, $220 or $220. For the numbers, if, for example, in the last one, if you say 220, that is informal style, and if you say $220, that's formal style. It's better you follow formal style because this is academic exam. For 2012, you don't need to say year 2012 if in the context it's already clear that you're talking about year. Okay, so let's say that I passed my test in 2012, then it's clear that I'm talking about year. So you don't need to add year there. But why we say $220? Because there is a dollar sign there. And why don't we say 220? Because that's informal. 220 is fine when we are speaking, having a chat, but in academic context, we say 220. So I hope that answers your question. Let me pick a few other questions here. If I'm writing almost 3 to 4 lines from summary with conclusion of lecture, is it sufficient for maximum marks? Again, depends what you are writing in those 3 to 4 lines. According to the length, I think it's appropriate length, but what matters is how you have written those 3 to 4 sentences. Have you correctly spelled all the words? Did you actually write the words which were mentioned in the recording, or you misheard a word and wrote something else? something that sounded similar. Those things are also important. So the length itself is not important. What matters is what you have written in those sentences. Okay, so I think I have gone through most of your questions. Let me see if I have any other questions here that I can answer. So there is a question from Isa who is asking me, in read aloud, which part do we need to focus more to get higher marks in reading and speaking both? In read aloud, which part do we need to focus more? I think she's trying to say whether she needs to focus on content or pronunciation or fluency. If you want to get more marks in both both reading and in speaking, then you need to focus on pronunciation and content than on fluency. Because as I said, fluency is more important for your speaking score, but content and pronunciation are more important for your reading score. So depending on where you think you are losing marks, where you are getting less score, you may need to up your skills a little bit in one of those three skills there. And okay, another interesting question here from Sandhya. Is it necessary to use either British or American English throughout the exam? Your choice. In one question type, just use one type of English. That means if you are doing fill in the blanks, first set, then if you are writing American English, just use American English. If you're writing an essay and you are using American English, you're starting with American English, then stick to that. But the moment you move from one question to another question, it doesn't matter. You can use any kind of English in your test. You are allowed to use any kind of English in your test. So it's up to you to decide what you want to do in the test. Okay, and if you are confused about American and British English, their spelling especially, then I have a video on YouTube where I have discussed 6 important rules or 6 important differences between American and British spelling. If you revise that video, if you go through that video one time, I think that will be enough. But don't worry too much about the difference between American and British. By the way, even in the pronunciation, the same rule applies. British pronunciation, American pronunciation, Australian pronunciation, Canadian pronunciation, doesn't matter as long as it's standard pronunciation. And another thing is, this is something I have told my students many times. Sometimes you may feel like the way you are pronouncing some words is different than the way Australians are pronouncing words. Don't think that you are doing it wrong. It's just that some words in English have more than one standard pronunciation. My favorite is, I have actually 2 favorites here. One is lychee and lychee. So if you ask any Australian, how do you pronounce this word? They will say lychee. And you might feel like, but we used to say lychee. By the way, it's a fruit. Both of them are correct. Lychee and lychee, both are correct. Lychee is more commonly used by North Americans. So in American English, people are more likely to say lychee, and in Australia, they are more likely to say lychee. So if you ask Australians how to say this word, they will say lychee. And if you ask Americans, they will say lychee. Who is correct? Both of them are correct. How should you pronounce? If you are in Australia, say lychee so that people can understand you. If you are in the US, say lychee so that they can understand you. In cases of these kind of variations, what matters is where you are rather than what is the absolutely right way of pronunciation, because there is none. Both of them are acceptable. Another one is garage and garage. Both are correct. Garage is also correct. Garage is also correct. People from South Asia especially will say garage because that's how British people mostly pronounce this word. And some Americans also pronounce this as garage. But in Australia, garage is more common. So if you are in Australia, it's better to say garage so that people understand you. But if you are in other places, depending on how people say that word there, you can do that. So the point here is, just because you say something differently doesn't mean that you are wrong in pronunciation. So what you need to learn is one correct way of pronunciation, not all different ways of pronouncing a word. This is a language test, and in language, it's not like mathematics where only 2 plus 2 can only be 4. In language, the same question can be answered in hundreds of different ways, and all of those ways can be correct. So keep these things in mind when you're listening to someone's tip. So I would like to wrap up today's session by saying you this. After watching this session, if you go to YouTube and start watching other videos, then you'll find other different types of opinions, and perhaps all of them are correct. What matters is whether you feel comfortable with what someone is telling you or not, whether you can do the things in the way they are telling you to do or not. Don't try to learn all the ways. Just learn one way and master it. That's the best way to get your score in shortest possible time. Stop experimenting, start optimizing. Find the right environment, find the right kind of materials, find a good mentor, listen to that mentor, avoid all distractions, and be focused. You will definitely get the score you're looking for. If you think this session was useful, let me know in the comments, in the chat box, or by sending email to my email address. Let me share you my email address as well. So if you like this session, if you think I should be doing more sessions like this, just send me an email in this email address or write in the comment. If you have any questions, feel free to send an email to this email address and I'll try to include the answer in the next session. If you have any suggestions for making these sessions more interactive, more useful, let me know. And next week, hopefully on Saturday or Sunday, we'll be doing another session. We'll be talking about, and in the next session, we'll be actually answering some questions together. Today's session was only an interactive session, and I was only trying to answer your questions and your queries so that you could at least start your preparation. In the next session, we'll be talking about some specific questions in the test. It's been a pleasure helping you prepare for this test, and stay safe. I'll see you next week. Have a good day.